Hey guys, it's Val, and welcome to the last episode of the first season of my Relation Romanticship podcast. The goal of my podcast is for me to find answers regarding how I could better my own future romantic relationships, and in the process help you, the viewers, be able to find some type of lessons or practices or tips that you could use in order to help better your own future relationship. During the course of this podcast, I have learned many things. And during this last conclusive episode, I'm going to mention some of the things that I have done. But before that, I want to thank you guys so much for spending the last 13 weeks with me listening to my podcast. I really am grateful for all the 200 plus downloads I have received. I am really grateful for the donations that I've also received. And I'm really grateful for giving me your time and sharing that podcast to all of your friends. And one more thing that I'm grateful for is the appearances of all my guests. It has been an honor to have them come and share their own experience, because from those experiences, I've been able to pick bits and pieces here and there in order to form a more conclusive idea of how I want to go about creating and fostering my future romantic relationship. So again, I want to thank all of you guys for participating with the first season of my podcast. If you're a person that's been watching and you have not yet donated and you want to know how you can support the podcast, the first thing that you can do is to go ahead and share the podcast with some of your friends that maybe are going through some relationship crisis and they don't know how to handle it, because I believe that some of the episodes of my podcast will be able to offer them some new insight. The second thing that you can do if you want to support the podcast is to send a donation through the Cash App, which I will be having listed on the screen and also in the description down below. So if you like to support the podcast, then go ahead, you can also donate too. And again, thank you again so much for all your time, all your donation. So yeah, let's get started talking about the main points that I learned over the course of this podcast. So the first point that I want to mention is the idea of not being equally yoked. So Pastor Shifra said the best in her analogy of a racetrack. She said that if you are a person and you are recklessly running after God, think of a racetrack and you're recklessly running on that racetrack, and your whole desire, your whole being is worshiping and going after God, then while you're running, it's okay for you to look to the left and to the right and see any person that attracts you, that is running with you, that is keeping up with you. You are allowed to take them and decide to go on a journey together. That is the idea of being equally yoked spiritually. And not only spiritually, but you can also be equally yoked personally. That means when it comes to like your core belief, your values, the way you see life, the way you see money managing, and all these things, I believe kind of somewhat relates to spirituality, because some of your moral values are going to be rooted in religious beliefs. Not only that, but another point that I took from not being unequally yoked is the idea of not being unequally yoked physically too, because you need to be attracted to the person that you are going to continue doing the race with. And if you and that person are not physically attracted to each other, that's going to be a problem. No matter if you guys are spiritually aligned and your moral values are the same, that would not work. Another point that I want to mention is the idea of submission, the true meaning of submission. So there are two things that I want to mention regarding submission that I learned. The first thing that I learned was that the idea of submission relates to both the men and the women in the relationship. So just like the Bible said that the women should submit to the men, it also implied that the men should also submit to the women, because the goal of submission is to better serve each other. So, and by submitting, you're serving your partner, which is technically how it should be. You know, in a relationship, your goal is to serve your partner and in turn be served. And the other point that I learned regarding submission is that submission, if you were to break down the word, if you were to break down the word in half, you get the word submit and mission. I think that if you're going to be in a relationship, then the people in the relationship needs to have a mission that they both will submit to. So if you're a Christian, then that could be submitting to the mission of saving lives for God. So I mean, you can do it that way. Or if you're not a Christian, then you can find some other mission that both of you can get behind together, because when you have a mission, then you already know then you have a sense of purpose moving as one unit. So those are some of the things I learned regarding the idea of the true meaning of submission. The third point I want to mention is when it comes to regarding love. So what I've learned throughout this podcast is that love is not a feeling, love is a choice. Just like Sean and Angelica mentioned previously, love is not a feeling, love is more of an action, it's a choice. So then there's a difference between feeling in love and also knowing you love, because feeling in love is when you have those feelings inside of you that you can't really control, that is being feeling in love. And yes, that is necessary at the beginning stage of the relationship, but over time that's not really what's going to keep the relationship going, because feelings, even though they may be real, they are not to be trusted, just like it was mentioned in the book by Jonathan Pokluda called Outdated. And he said that feelings are true, but they're not to be trusted because they come and go. They're like waves. You cannot base your relationship on feeling and love for that person. And so that comes to the point where love, then, if it's not really a feeling, then it's a choice. And that is an idea that I cannot see truth to that, because when you say you love somebody, you have to love them even though they're not perfect, even though they have flaws. And I cannot see that just being a feeling, because that is something that you have to be doing actively. You have to actually be doing that day by day. And so that's why I've come to the conclusion that love is not a feeling, it's a choice, and that choice will have consequences. However, it's a choice nonetheless, and you choose who you love and you choose who you do not love. And therefore I like that, because it gives me, first of all, it helps me be accountable for choosing whoever I choose, because for me to love that person, it's my choice, and I didn't just fall in love with that person, I chose to love that person. So then the accountability is not on me for whatever happened in my future relationship, so I cannot go blaming anybody else. And second thing, it makes it much more real to know that love is a choice, because it means that whoever is loving you is actively choosing to love you. So that means that it's not just by hazard, it's not just a feeling. They don't just happen to love you, but they are actively making that conscientious choice in order to love you. And I think that's beautiful, because it means that somebody else has found you to be worthy of spending time, effort, and money to actually pursue you and choose to love you daily, which is something that is hard to do. Even with all your flaws and all your imperfections, somebody has chosen to love you. So those are some of the key points that I was able to overall gain from my podcast. There was a lot more points that I could have put out, but I want you guys to go and listen to a podcast for yourself, so that you can have a better and more thorough understanding of some of the things that were talked in during the podcast. So again, I want to thank all of my special guest speakers that came and gave me the time and gave me the wisdom. And from all of those conversations, I've been able to have a shift of perspective when it comes to dating as a young adult. And I hope you have been blessed, and I hope that you have shifted your perspective, or if not, enhanced the perspective that you already had before. So with that said, I want to thank you guys again so much for listening to my podcast. Thank you for the donation, and thank you for the downloads. I'll be making sure to keep you guys posted regarding a second season of my podcast. So if you would like to stay in touch with me, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at valdrexphi. Or if you want to follow me on TikTok, it's also valdrexphi. Or if you want to email me, then you can email me at valdrexphi@gmail.com. Don't worry, I'll be posting all those information on the screen or even in the description of the episode, so that you can go ahead and join me. And if you really want to be able to talk to me anytime of the day, I'm usually on Discord. I have a Discord server that if you want to hang out, then you can just come in there and hang out. I have a few books on there that I have the PDF file to. So if you guys want to download the books that I highly encourage, then go ahead and do so. And I also put the Discord link in the description of the video, so you can go ahead and join. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I will see you guys in the next season. Peace out.